In this video, I'm going to talk about the right BC pattern as defined by the Postural Restoration Institute, and I'm going to show what it looks like in real life. And I'm also going to talk about one specific reason that people may get stuck in this right BC pattern, and they may not be able to get out of it because of a loss of sense in one area of the foot. So the right BC pattern, right brachial chain pattern, as defined by the Postural Restoration Institute, is one where the right side of the rib cage is compressed and the lumbar spine is rotated to the right, and then the upper part of the rib cage and spine have to twist back to the left to stay straight. That's the right BC pattern. It results in a very typical right rib cage depression and a left rib cage elevation or rib flare on the left side, while the body weight is centered over to the right. Underneath that right BC pattern is usually the left AIC pattern, where the left side of the pelvis comes forward, the sacrum and the lumbar spine go to the right, and we end up over on our right leg. So then you have the rib cage on top that has to twist back to the left side, that has to twist back to the left to stay straight. Again, that's the left AIC, right BC pattern. So you can immediately know that someone is in a left AIC, right BC pattern when they lie down on my table, because as you can see in the first picture, or the picture on the left, this individual is lying with the right side of their body leaning backwards. He's laying on his left side, and his right side is literally falling backwards. That's a right side that is oriented to the right, and that puts the right side of the body a little bit behind the left side. And that's how this individual is lying down. At the end of the session, and I didn't tell him any of this, this is just how he was lying down. At the end of the 1 hour, or it was hour and a half session, he then laid down on his left side like this. I didn't tell him to do that. That is a brain that has changed its orientation back to the center. The brain is no longer saying, I have to stay to the right. It can now stay centered, and now that's why he's lying on his left side the way that he is. So another side lying position, you can see this individual, when she's lying on her left side, her right side is again falling backwards. But when she lies on her right side, the left side does not fall backwards. She stays pretty straight. And again, it's the influence of that right BC and left AIC pattern, and in particular a brain that likes to process visual input more on the right than on the left, and that bigger right diaphragm that pulls us to the right. And those are the influences that you're looking at. But it's a brain issue. The muscles are just following what the brain is saying to do, and they pull the bones into that position. Here, this individual is lying down supine. And again, you can see his upper body is off to the right side. So this is my right side, but I think you'd be looking at it this way. So his upper body is off to the right. His right rib cage and his right abdominal wall will be super tight because he's lying in that right BC pattern. And then finally, the standing position that you see, when I put him on his right leg, which is the first picture, his upper body is pretty much centered over his right leg. But when I put him on his left leg, his upper body is not over his left leg. It's still over the center of his body and towards the right. So this individual, even when he puts all his weight on his left foot, or he thinks he is, his upper body does not follow. So this is my left side. When he puts his weight on his left foot, his upper body is still staying to the right. So he's not really ever truly in left stance. And that again, that is what you'll always see. That's the typical presentation of this left AIC, right BC pattern. You put them on their left foot, and they're never really on their left foot the same way that they're on their right foot. When he's on his right foot, his body weight is centered over his right foot. When he's on his left foot, his body weight is not centered over his left foot. It's still stuck more in the middle, meaning it's never really on the left side. Now, like I said, this is not a muscle issue. This is a brain sensory input orientation issue. These individuals' brains are over-sensing sensory input from the right side, which keeps his orientation to the right. Once we're upright, our brain has to make sense of where we are in space. And it does that through orientation. There's reflexes for orientation. We're using our visual systems, our auditory systems, the tactile input from the ground for our brain to orient ourselves in space. Now, with the ground, if you see the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, the individuals in these pictures are going to be sensing floor number 4. And you'll see floor number 4 is on the outside of the right foot and more towards the heel. that's where that individual will be sensing more of the ground, will be outside of the right foot and more towards the heel. We need these individuals to feel more of ground one, and some maybe, I would say ground one. The outside of the left heel, you have to reverse it. Otherwise, they're never actually going to get their body weight all the way over to the left side. Now, every PRI technique has people sensing their left heel. So if you say, well, how do you change this? Well, that's what postural restoration is all about. Any technique you find on my website or my YouTube channel, any technique that you find on any other person's YouTube channel or Instagram that's talking about postural restoration, this is, whether they realize it or not, this is ultimately what they're trying to do, is reorient the brain to the left side and to be able to stabilize on that left side. Getting people to sense their left heel, and also, if you see with the right foot, where I have those stars at the arch of the right foot, so you got left heel and right arch, left heel, that transfers us to the left side. So that's where we need to sense the ground. But there's one other part that people may lose, and that would be the right big toe. And if they lose sense of the right big toe, they can't push through. They will not be able to get proper dorsiflexion of the right foot, which is going to be the re-supination. So you go heel, arch, big toe. People will often lose sense of their big toe, and now they don't push through their big toe. And if they don't push through their big toe, they never get fully to the left side. So what you're going to see here is in this picture, you can see the bunion on the inside of this individual's right foot. And that would be right about here. This is where their bunion is. And this is where they're probably pushing off of that foot. They're not pushing through the front of the big toe. And that bunion is what's keeping this individual that I was working with in this right BC pattern. So whenever she would be upright and walking around, because her brain has learned how to push through the bunion, that's like her aiming point. That's where her brain understands how to push forward because of the pattern that she was in. She can no longer pronate the right foot, get proper dorsiflexion of the right ankle, and push through the big toe because of the limitations that the pattern, the left AIC, right BC pattern, because of those limitations that it's placing upon her. Her ranges of motion are now limited. So she has, over the years, unconsciously learned how to push through a different part of the right foot, which is biomechanically not efficient, and thus you see this bunion. Now, there's other reasons that a bunion could grow, but I'm relatively sure that her bunion is because, and you see this a lot, I'm pretty sure her bunion is because she could no longer, because of the pattern of the pelvis and the rib cage above it, she could no longer push the big toe, so she started to roll off the inside of the right foot, and it causes this extra bone growth. So what I did was I just took paper towel, and just like this, and just put it at the tip of her big toe, right at the tip of the big toe. I know it looks like it's covering her second toe also, but it didn't mean to be. It was just to give her more sensory input of her right big toe. And she knew immediately that when we put this on, first of all, her body went completely neutral. Like the remaining tests that couldn't get full range of motion cleared up immediately. And she just felt her body actually shift over to her left side in a way that she had never felt. And to her, it was quite revolutionary. It was pretty cool to see because I had a feeling that that right bunion was throwing everything off. And all she had to do was re-sensitize her feet, get her brain to push off of this right big toe to override the sensory input that that right bunion was giving her. That was her push-off mark. We had to change that mark to give her a landing strip or a takeoff. No, what would be the takeoff strip? A runway at her big toe. She's got to skip this bunion, and we were actually able to do that. She may need an orthotic because that bone is not going to go anywhere unless she gets it shaved down, and I don't think she wants to do that. She might actually need an orthotic to actually keep this foot dorsiflexing and pronating appropriately so she can push through the big toe so she can get to her left side, to the floor underneath the left heel, but we'll see what happens in the future. The good thing is all her neck tension is gone, her back tension is gone. So that's the good thing. So I just wanted to show quick video of how a big toe or lack of big toe sense will keep you into this right BC pattern because the right BC pattern stays tight on the right side unless you can push through the big toe for an effective transfer over to the left side. If you don't have that, you're just going to go back into that right dominant pattern, and that's what happens.